Did you hear about the census?
I got it.
Yeah, so I do too. Bobby me lo mandó.
We were in the 1.8%. It's too late.
100 people. 100 people. Are they all signing up?
2-minute warning, counselors, 2-minute warning. I'm calling the August 12th, 2021 regular meeting of the Roswell City Council to order. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Councilor Oropesa?
Here.
Councilor Best?
Here.
Councilor Sanchez? Absent. Councilor Moore?
Here.
Councilor Stubbs?
Here.
Councilor Lopez?
Present.
Councilor Foster?
Here.
Councilor Kinnard? Here. Councilor Perry?
Here.
Councilor Robeck?
Here.
Mayor Kintai?
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask everyone to please rise while Councilor Lopez leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Councilor Foster does the invocation. Councilor Lopez, you have the floor.
Please bow. Father God, we come tonight here to thank you for all the things you've done for our city, all the things you've done for our country. Be with our soldiers around the world and be with our police officers that are keeping us safe. Lord, we need to come to you and ask that you give us wisdom and foresight and only speak of things that you need us to do. In your Son's name, amen.
Amen. Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that we approve the agenda for this evening with a couple of things to remember. Number one, page 87 is intentionally left blank, that we have the two public hearings, one on the restaurant liquor license for Backdraft Barbecue LLC and for proposed ordinance 21-09 concerning the amending the Roswell City Code to include also the consent items with the respect of removing from consent per request of Councilor Oropesa, number 6, which is the RFP 22001, which is the tree removal, disposal, and trimming services, the ITB for the janitorial supplies, and the capital that's number 7. Number 8, capital purchase of the 5-yard international dump truck. Number 9, the resolution 21-48, which is weeds resolution. and also removing from consent item number 14, which is Resolution 21-53, authorizing the disposal of certain surplus and personal property, including also the one resolution under regular items and the 8 requests, along with non-agenda items.
I have a motion. Counselor, if you'll activate the motion button. I have a motion by Counselor Perry and a second by Counselor Kennard to approve the agenda with consent items 6, 7, 8, 9, and 14 removed from consent and added to the regular agenda. Is there any discussion or debate? I have Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Forgive me. I don't believe that motion included the minutes from the 2 meetings that we have in our packets.
Thank you, and I would add those two. Thank you.
We'll have the motion reflect and include the minutes. All right. Any other discussion or debate? Hearing none, I will ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the agenda as discussed. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0. All right, a couple announcements. First up, if I'm not mistaken, this is Councilor Lopez's first regular City Council meeting. All right, well, welcome aboard, and you're stuck. You're not allowed to leave. Next up, I wish to make an announcement to the community and anyone else who listens. After discussion with city leadership, Mr. Nebb and Mr. Matthews, let me state clearly that this administration is fully supportive and encouraging of everyone to get the Trump vaccines. I call them that because the Operation Warp Speed project occurred under the administration of former President Trump. I encourage that. I have gotten the vaccines myself, as have my wife and 2 of my 3 daughters. However, there is not, nor will there ever be, a requirement for city employees to get the vaccine. There is no requirement that those coming into city space have to have the vaccine. It's encouraged, but you are free to make your own health care decisions. This is still America, at least as far as Roswell is concerned. Furthermore, masks are your choice. If you choose to wear a mask, that is fine. If you choose not to, that's fine, independent and regardless of any kind of vaccination status. You are free to decide. So, with that, we move on. First presentation is by Dr. Sean Powell. Dr. Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. We appreciate the opportunity to be here from the campus. I do have some slides I'll go through, and I do want to express appreciation to Councilmember Oropesa, who set this up to bring these opportunities for scholarship to the City Council. So let's see. You'd think I'd know how to do this.
You are a
Advance it
professor.
over there. There we go. Thank you. So what I'm going to do is present a variety of scholarship opportunities. Our semester starts on Monday. That's our 16-week semester. We also have a 12-week semester and an 8-week semester this term that will be kicking off for the fall. One of the things that has happened is our local legislators have provided funding through capital outlay, and we have about $241 for capital outlay funds to support individuals who didn't graduate from high school, who completed a GED or HiSET, and this is to pursue technical education or health education certificates. The requirements are listed there, and again, these are certificates that are designed for individuals to come to our campus. They're 1 semester, 2 semester certificates. They cover tuition, fees, books, tools, supplies, everything that someone might need in order to be successful and join the workforce, and that's what that was intended for. Next slide, please, ma'am. The Opportunity Scholarship. So this is a scholarship from the state. This is the one that the governor announced 2 years ago. And The legislature has approved it the last 2 years, and so the requirements are listed here. The things that have changed about Opportunity Scholarship this year is that it changed from full-time to part-time credit. So if someone is going to come in on a part-time basis, they're allowed to use this scholarship. And then also, it goes to the four-year institutions now. And by the way, I did leave some flyers outside on the table if people want to pick these up. It has all the information I'm presenting here tonight. Next slide, ma'am. The Legislative Lottery Scholarship, that's one of the older ones that we have here in New Mexico. And this is for students who have recently graduated from a New Mexico public high school or have completed the high set and then enroll in school right away. So this one is set to cover 100% of tuition costs this year. And that's what the legislature set aside. So it's kind of an interesting time because we have the Opportunity Scholarship at the state level. We also have the Lottery Scholarship there. Okay, next, ma'am. And then our foundation has been gracious enough to continue to provide a variety of scholarships. I didn't list all of the ones here, but the requirements are you have to be a New Mexico resident, you have to be enrolled in at least full-time credit at 12 hours, you need to complete the financial aid form and have some form of unmet need, and there are some GPA requirements. And so, again, we do have a lot of foundation scholarships and appreciate the support of our foundation. Another thing on the next slide is we have received, just like everyone else in the state from a campus perspective, federal dollars from CARES Act and the ARP Act. And so we have funding for what we're calling Cosmo Cares. And this is a chance for students who have an unmet need, whether it's housing insecurity, food insecurity, or homelessness, to come forward and ask for financial support for those needs. And we also did a survey, and this happened in the fall. What happened is we found that about 2/3 of our students had experienced food insecurity, housing insecurity, or homelessness in the previous year. And that's right here in Roswell. And so the Cosmo Care funding was put forth to assist those individuals with their needs, whether, again, it's transportation, room and board, supplies, tools. We will probably add child care to that as we get the child care center running again on campus. Okay. And then the last slide, again, thank you for the opportunity to address the council. I'd stand for any questions.
Questions, counselors? All right. Okay. That was easy, Dr. Powell.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your work. All right. All right, and first up, item number 11. Item number 4, Counselor Best.
I'd like to make it to, excuse me. Oh, this is a special. Okay. I make a motion to hold a public hearing and vote on a restaurant liquor license for Backdraft Barbecue, LLC, application number 1192950, located at 300 and 301 North Railroad Avenue.
I have a motion by Counselor Best and a second by Counselor Foster to have a public hearing and vote on a restaurant liquor license for Backdraft Barbecue. Mr. Patterson.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. As just mentioned, this is a public hearing to consider a liquor license, a restaurant liquor license. This is a new license for Backdraft Barbecue LLC. You guys, most of you have done about 100 million of these up to now, so you know what the deal is, but I have to remind everybody that in this context, you are setting aside your normal mode of operation as a legislative body, and you are acting in this capacity as a quasi-judicial entity. The difference being that as a legislative body, you make the law. As a quasi-judicial body, you apply the law that already exists. So in your capacity in this context, you have to take the law, take what is presented to you, that evidence which is presented to you in this hearing, apply them and come with a decision. You are not able to go outside of what happens in this room and bring in other facts or knowledge that you have, and you have to apply the law as written whether you agree with it or not. Your decision in this in this hearing is subject to review both by the state and by the courts. So if this body were to make a decision contrary to law, that would be subject to review and being overturned by the district court or the state. And in this capacity, also, the staff are not in their usual role as advisors. We're actually advocates. We may present a particular position and advance that position. So consider us in that role as opposed to being disinterested or neutral. As with other liquor licenses, there's 3 categories of things which you are called upon to review. This liquor license, you have to determine whether or not the proposed location is prohibited, i.e. within 300 feet of a church, school, or military establishment, whether the proposed location is consistent with our zoning, and whether or not the proposed license would be detrimental to the public health, safety, morals in this specific case. So not based on any particular disagreement with alcohol in general, but actually specific to this license. As I said, this is a restaurant liquor license. It's going to be located at 300 and 300 North Railroad Avenue. It is a new license. Staff has looked at this. It is not, as far as staff is aware, within 300 feet of any of the 3 categories of prohibited entities. You can see that on the map there. Staff has also looked at the zoning situation and has determined that it is appropriately zoned. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, and as such, I actually have 2 individuals who signed up to speak on this, a Kathy Crosley and a Paul Thompson. If you're present, will you please come forward? Under these procedures, we will ask you to state your name and your address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to make comments. So, go ahead. First one up.
I didn't know I was speaking.
Go ahead.
I'm Kathy Crossley. My address is 4700 Zuni Drive, Roswell. This is my son that has a restaurant, Backdraft Barbecue, and I know he will follow all rules and do everything he's supposed to do. So I recommend y'all voting for it.
Okay, fair enough.
My name is Paul Thompson. I'm the owner of Backdraft Barbecue. I wasn't even sure that I was speaking, so I don't even really have anything to say, to be honest.
Okay.
I appreciate you guys looking at this. You know, we have a great following. We sell out every single day. This will just be one more thing that we can provide the public with, and just keep doing what we're doing. So I appreciate you guys listening.
Okay. Can you state your address for the record?
Yeah, it's 3602 West Country Club.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. This is a public hearing, so even if you did not sign up to speak on this matter, you may do so. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to this? Don't get ahead of me. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this liquor license? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Let the record reflect no one present chose to speak in opposition. Do we have anyone online wishing to speak on this matter? Is there anyone present in the audience who would like to speak in support of this application for a liquor license? Please state your name and address. You will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor. Welcome, Mr. Lopez. Congratulations on your appointment, and city councilors. My name is Mona Kirk, 1 Holly Loop, and yes, I would love to speak on this the behalf of Paul Thompson. He has worked very hard in preparing his location to serve food. The food is delicious. I've eaten there many times. In addition, I've known him all my life, the family all my life, and I fully support his decision to open up his restaurant, and I think it would be a great addition to serve alcohol with his barbecue. Barbecue and beer goes together, hand in glove. So thank you. Thank you for taking your time to consider this.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Larry Conley, 2815 Encanto. Mona took all the words out of my mouth. You can't have a great barbecue or brisket, I've been told by a person in the audience, unless you have a beer. Now, I think you have to have a vodka with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. All right, counselors, any questions or comments regarding this proposed liquor license? I have Counselor Perry. Counselor Perry, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make one, and I think that it was clarified with our attorney, but in the paperwork on page 13, it shows premises location is zone C2 and I-1. It is only I-1. It is not in a C2 zone. I just wanted to make that clarification. And I believe I'm correct, so if I'm incorrect, someone just please correct me. I believe the restaurant that was here previously also served alcohol. Is that correct? There was a
Yes.
license there at the premises previously. Okay, thank you.
All right, I have no one else on my list. This is a public hearing, and as such, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. A yes or aye approves the issuance of the restaurant liquor license. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box when you respond. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
No.
Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Counselor Lopez?
Yes.
Counselor Foster?
Yes.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Aye.
Counselor Robeck?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-1.
Thank you. Next up, item number 5, Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is at the recommendation of the Legal Committee that I move to approve proposed ordinance 21-09, amending the Roswell City Code to provide for a new chapter, Chapter 27, Cannabis.
Did you want to talk about the corrections at this point?
Well, I sort of thought I'd make a motion and then amend the motion.
Why don't we avoid an amendment, because then we'd have to vote on it.
No, you didn't read the memo.
I did read the memo.
The memo said I wanted unanimous consent.
Okay. I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs to have a public hearing and vote on proposed ordinance 21-09, amending the Roswell City Code. I have a motion by Stubbs and a second by Kennard. Before we go forward,
Mr. Mayor,
okay,
I would like to amend the motion, if I may, please.
okay.
I move to amend the motion and approve by unanimous consent all the red changes provided in the published packet, as well as on page 23 of the packet, line 24, Article 3, which is administration of the cannabis ordinance, to simply read administration. Then on page 25, line 12, change the word requirements to standards. And on page 29 of the packet, line 40, change the word requirements to application.
All right. Mr. Patterson, would you concur that those are corrective type changes?
Yes, especially since they're mostly to titles of different sections, so it's not substantive in any way.
Okay. Ms. Call, I don't know what you're trying to tell me. Oh, thank you. All right. For the record, Counselor Sanchez has joined us. Thank you. I'm sorry. All right, so these are corrections. Is there any opposition or questions about these changes, counselors? Counselor Oropesa.
Mr. Mayor, if we go unanimous, are we still allowed to ask questions?
Well, this is just changing those particular words. We're not, that's not for the whole thing. That's just changing those 3 words.
Okay, then I misunderstood, sorry.
No. We're having a hearing and a presentation on this. Yeah, we're just correcting wording. All right. Mr. Mavers.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. This evening, we're bringing before you Part 1 of our proposed ordinance 2109. This ordinance will amend and create Chapter 27 of the Roswell City Code. Before we get deep into it, we'd like to go ahead and give you a little background on what's going on so that everybody's brought up to speed. The New Mexico legislature, of course, earlier in the year passed the Cannabis Regulation Act. You'll see that referred to in a lot of documents as the CRA. This act established a regulatory framework for the possession, cultivation, manufacture, sales of cannabis and cannabis-derived products. The thing to remember is that this this legislation went into effect June 29th of 2021. So it's already been in effect now for about 4 weeks. A little longer than that. Anyway, the main portion of this ordinance, though, as of June 29th, personal possession and use became legal in the state of New Mexico for residents over 21 years of age, adults 21 and over. Okay. For us, the thing to remember is the Cannabis Regulation Act provides that local jurisdictions may adopt time, place, and manner rules that do not conflict with the CRA or the D. Johnson Clean Indoor Air Act, including those rules that reasonably limit the density of licenses and the operating times consistent with neighborhood uses. That is a key phrase that's in the legislation that we are utilizing in order to put together our own ordinance. One of the big things to remember also is that the state legislation does not adopt or create a zone. It does not adopt or create development requirements. It does not adopt or create standards for the development or implementation, especially of the commercial aspect of cannabis. Only the personal use of cannabis is currently legal. The remainder of this is yet to come. Okay. The purpose of tonight's meeting and public hearing is to begin the process of enacting reasonable controls and restrictions on possession, use, manufacture, cultivation, sales, all of those things that are necessary and proper to protect and promote the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the city of Roswell. Okay. Again, the intent of the ordinance is to establish that general framework, and we put that graphic up there for you to remind you how complex this issue is. We are not just dealing with personal possession and use in this particular case. We are establishing an entire regulatory framework here at the local level to deal with everything from the research and development, the nurseries that will grow the cannabis plant, the manufacturers, the cultivators, all the distributors, testing labs, taxing authority, which is something that is yet to come, and then of course the retailers, the dispensaries, delivery services, on-site consumption, and other uses that are stated within the legislation. Okay. I'm not going to go over this slide for you too quickly other than to let you know that as of June 29th, it is lawful for anyone over 21 years of age and over to possess certain amounts of cannabis and to retain that for personal use. It is also legal in the state of New Mexico for persons over the age of 21 to grow a limited number of plants in their household, in their home. Okay. This is the area that the ordinance is really concerned with, and this is the commercial cannabis implementation timeline. No later than September 1, the Cannabis Regulatory Agency Committee is going to be created and going to start holding meetings. CCD, that stands for the Cannabis Control Division. That is our state agency that will be governing the implementation of cannabis licenses and cannabis regulatory processes. Okay? So beginning the 1st of September, cannabis producers, cannabis microproducers, and properly licensed medical cannabis producers, they will begin accepting licenses for those types of uses. We fast forward now another 3 months, and January 1 of next year, the CCD will begin issuing licenses to conduct commercial cannabis activity for people properly licensed in the medical cannabis program. Again, we make that distinction because it's not until April that commercial cannabis is going to begin licensing. But we have a process here, and we need to be ahead of this process, which is why we're here tonight. The CRA also gives us some limitations. It's what we can do and what we cannot do. Out of the 177 pages, the list of the things we can do and cannot do is 1 page out of the 177 within the cannabis legislation. Okay? But within that 1 page, we cannot prevent anyone who is properly licensed, okay, from transporting cannabis on public roads. We cannot completely prohibit the operations of a cannabis licensee, and we cannot prohibit or limit signage if it's attached to or located on the building premises. Other than that, we can do just about anything we want within the current framework of our zoning and development code. The CRA also provides that local jurisdictions cannot do certain things. We cannot require a cannabis establishment or cannabis consumption area to be located more than 300 feet from a school or daycare center that existed when the cannabis establishment or consumption area was licensed. We cannot require that an existing cannabis licensee to relocate to new premises. We currently have, I believe, 5 licensed medical cannabis retailers in town and 1 licensed medical cannabis manufacturer. Those facilities will remain as non-conforming uses. They will allow to continue to be open, and they will be allowed to continue to operate under the regulations that we're providing. We cannot prohibit an adult New Mexican, somebody 21 years of age or over, from producing homegrown cannabis. Again, under certain regulations, though. I want to make it very, very clear that we are allowed and we have the authority under the CRA to enact reasonable controls and restrictions related to all aspects of commercial cannabis. And we have the right and the obligation to provide proper and adequate protections for the health, safety, and welfare of all residents, not only our children, but our most vulnerable populations within the city. Okay? Because the state legislation is so large and the issue of cannabis is so all-consuming, we decided to focus this particular meeting and this particular framework of our ordinance on 3 particular areas. We're focusing tonight on personal possession and use and adopting those regulations, putting them into our ordinance that will allow for personal possession and use under certain circumstances. We are developing a framework for zoning and development, and then we are dealing with the issue of the existing non-conforming uses. Okay? According to the CRA, again, these are the things that personal possession and use constitutes. There are limits on how much an individual can have in their possession at any one time. We need to know these limits, and we need to understand these limits, including how much can be grown within a household or by an individual. There is a limit of 6 mature plants per individual and up to 12 mature plants per household. That's the maximum. It doesn't matter how many adults over the age of 21 you have living under one roof. If it's a single household, it's 12 mature plants. And a mature plant is considered a plant that is capable of producing the marijuana flowers or the cannabis flowers. Okay. The city is responsible, again, for developing those reasonable controls. Another thing we all need to remember is that unless you are licensed under the Cannabis Regulation Act, it is unlawful for any person who is less than 21 years of age to intentionally produce, hold, control, or transport cannabis, or provide cannabis to anyone under 21 years of age or under. Okay. We're beginning the framework of our zoning and development standards here. Okay. Again, protecting the health, safety, and welfare, but also protecting to a certain extent the business community, especially the community in town that provides services to families and children within the area. Okay? We have the right to protect residents and visitors and determine the location of cannabis cultivation, processing, manufacturing, distributing, all aspects of cannabis. The city of Roswell has established special districts, though, already in town that deserve special consideration and special protection. These districts are near or adjacent to specified locations where children or the most vulnerable populations gather. Okay? This is the list that we've come up with right at the beginning. The Downtown Historic District. The Downtown Historic District, we believe and feel that it is more than reasonable to set that aside as an area where cannabis is incompatible with that particular use. The Downtown Historic District has tremendous cultural and historical value, and cannabis is inconsistent with those values. The Downtown Business District, the C3 district in downtown, especially because of our tourism industry and the fact that our tourism industry is primarily directed towards family and families with children, we believe that the cannabis industry is, again, incompatible with our downtown business district. The Metropolitan Redevelopment Area, the MRA, also known as our Railroad District, for many of the same reasons of the Downtown Historic District and the Downtown Business District. We have some historic buildings in that area. We have places where families are going to gather. We are currently working on, as Councilor Roebuck is very aware, we are currently working on our Great Blocks project, which will be a gathering place for families and other things, and therefore we believe that the use and the propagation of the cannabis industry in that area is inconsistent, and we believe that we need to set that aside. The Roswell Air Center, while there are probably some areas out there that will be allowed for cannabis cultivation or processing, many of the areas within the Roswell Air Center are under the jurisdiction of the federal government. The TSA, the FAA, the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, and other things. Currently, there are a number of policy statements from many federal agencies. They have a zero tolerance policy for cannabis on federal facilities. Okay. Additionally, we're following exactly the rules of the CRA within 300 feet of any residential districts and within 300 feet of all schools, parks, churches, recreation facilities, anywhere in the city where children or our most vulnerable populations gather. Okay. Again, with this particular slide, we reiterate that the zoning districts and the creation of these special zoning districts is to provide the health, safety, and welfare, but is also to simultaneously allow certain amounts of accessibility. We must provide a path for the development of this particular industry, and we're going to do so, but we're going to do so in a very thoughtful, forward-thinking way that protects the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens. Okay. Zoning and development standards. We have created within the ordinance in front of you 2 new zones within the city. Now, these are floating zones, which is something that the city does not currently have under its ordinance, but it makes a lot of sense for this particular application. We're going to create the CCAN zone, the commercial cannabis zone, and we're going to be creating the ICAN zone. We have the development requirements that have yet to be put together, but we also list all of the things that are allowed within the CCAN zone. These are zones that will be placed within the C2 and within the I2 that will potentially allow for cannabis development, pursuant to all the other regulations, including setbacks, distances, and everything else that we've been providing. Again, reiterating that federal agencies, this is something we need to be aware of. Okay? And it's something that I want everyone in the audience, as well as anyone considering coming forward with a application, to be aware of, that these agencies do have a no tolerance policy when it comes to cannabis. And because the policies are subject to change, it is going to be incumbent upon the applicant and the facilities operators to ensure they are in compliance with federal guidelines. Okay. Non-conforming uses. This is an area where we've gotten a lot of feedback. Like I said, we do have 5 currently permitted cannabis facilities in town, plus medical cannabis dispensaries, 1 medical cannabis manufacturing facility. We are not, and we want to reiterate, this ordinance will not put anyone out of business. However, it will change their status. They will be allowed to continue to operate as they have done before. They will be allowed to continue to renew their licenses as they have done before, and they will be able to continue. But they will become subject to standards of nonconformance. Okay? Some of the things that they will be allowed to do and allowed to continue, they are subject to, they can make repairs and alterations to their interior and exterior. If they need to upgrade their facilities, if they need to rebrand, if they need to do any of these other things, they're allowed to do so. Restrictions, there are restrictions, however, on additions and enlargements. They will be allowed to restore as a result of damages, but If they discontinue their use for a period of time, they will become a non-conforming use and then subject to change. If they vacate the premises, they will also can be considered a discontinuance of their use, and they will have to relocate to another area. They cannot, if they fall within an area in the city that is currently not zoned, they will have to comply with all new things, but only if they are declared to be inactive at any point in time. We have established the regulatory framework for dealing with existing non-conforming uses. It is well laid out within the ordinance in front of you tonight. We want to make it clear again that this is going to be the first of several meetings in front of you. As everybody knows, before I moved to Roswell, I was from California. It took, when we were working on the California ordinance, the local jurisdiction, it took 5 years before all the changes were made, before the state regulatory boards caught up with everything that needed to be done. We expect to be back in front of you frequently, which is another reason for setting up everything as a separate chapter in our municipal code. We only have to modify one chapter. Okay? From this point forward, though, assuming that you all vote to approve things tonight, we will create Chapter 27 in the municipal code. We will begin working immediately on the next phase of this particular chapter, which will be Amendment Number 1. We hope to get that to the legal committee later this month on August 26th. Assuming the legal committee agrees and approves, it will be passed forward to the city council on September 9th with a request to approve it for another full public hearing. And then the city council will hold a public hearing and then adopt Amendment Number 1 to Chapter 27 on October 14th. And then we will repeat until complete. Okay? Simultaneously, though, we will be at the staff level, we'll be working on the applications, permits, the fee structure, policies and procedures for implementation, as well as the full comprehensive cannabis ordinance website, which will go into effect as well. Okay? The legal committee did review this and has approved it by a vote. It was sent to the Roswell City Council about 2 weeks ago. They voted 8-2, of course, to authorize this advertisement. And staff, of course, recommends that you review and approve this ordinance creating Chapter 27 of the Roswell City Code, which will be entitled the City of Roswell Comprehensive Cannabis Ordinance.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mabers. We have a number of individuals who have signed up to speak on this. And as you observed earlier, what I'll do is I'll ask individuals to come forward. To expedite this for everybody's benefit, I will call 3 people at a time to come forward. First 3 come forward, the first person speaks, concludes, the next person I will call joins the back of the queue, and we move through this way. I will ask everyone to clearly articulate, state your name and your address, that's for the record, so that the city clerk has this for our records. You will have 3 minutes to speak. We have a number of people who are wishing to speak on this, and so I urge everyone to address this matter differently. In other words, if someone says something that you agree with, say, I agree with what was said, I want to add something new. And that way we move through this promptly. So I will call up the first 3 individuals. Oh, yes. Thank you, Counselor. We do, by the way, this is not a pep rally. This is not a high school auditorium. We do not cheer, we do not clap, we do not hold up signs. If you do that, these officers will remove you. So the first one's up, Mona Kirk, Pauline Alvarez, and Vanessa Alvarez. Come forward, please. And go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Councilors. Thank you so much for allowing me to express my opinion. I support you. Oh, Mona Kirk, One Holly Loop. Sorry, I apologize. First and foremost, I want to thank you for your service. I know how difficult it can be serving the public, especially in times of adversity, and no one knows that better than I do. But I will tell you, I will support you I may not agree with your decision, but I will always support you because you have agreed to serve. I stand before you asking you, first of all, I want to say I'm a conservative. I'm adamantly opposed to legalization of marijuana recreationally and the distribution of it recreationally. Not medicinally, but recreationally. But I'm also here asking that you, after I have listened to your presentation and saw in the paper, it was reported that the distance of any distribution for recreational marijuana would be within 300 feet of a school, but 1,000 feet of churches, community centers, parks, government facilities, and child care facilities. But as I listened, it stated 300 feet. I'm confused. Is it 300 feet or is it 1,000 feet? Can you respond to me or not?
No, we'll have Mr. Mavers at the
Okay.
end. Let's go through all
Thank
these
you.
comments.
Thank you. So therein lies my situation. Of course, I support my children. I support public education. They are our most valuable resource. I absolutely asking you to please increase that distance to 1,000. Yes, I was sent the law that you have presented, and it said existing schools within 300 feet. But I'm asking that you increase that to 1,000 because of our children as our precious resource. So please consider that. I don't know if that's a possibility with the legals the way they are, but I am asking that to please consider that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I'll ask Jasmine Contreras to join the back of the line. Ma'am, come forward, state your name, your address. You have 3 minutes.
Hello and good afternoon. My name is Paulina Alvarez and my address is 10 Bailey Place. I am the president of the Young Adult Council. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight and for your efforts to protect the most vulnerable members of our community, the youth. I'd like to give a fact. Marijuana use in adolescence or early adulthood has been associated with a dismal set of life outcomes: poor school performance, higher dropout rates, increased welfare dependence, greater unemployment, and lower life satisfaction. Unfortunately, Roswell has the highest youth marijuana use rates in the country. Marijuana use, as well as other drug use, has contributed to our low academic performance. To increase our chances of success for a prosperous future and decrease the chances that our youth will use marijuana, the Young Adult Council wants to reduce the influence of recreational marijuana use by not allowing dispensaries to set up their businesses in close proximity to schools. The draft ordinance proposes a distance of 300 feet from the schools to a dispensary. Our council decided to measure how far 300 feet is from Roswell High School, since it is located adjacent to Main Street. We took this tool out and measured 300 feet from the end of the property near the high school cafeteria. After crossing the street, we landed 2 businesses in. From the school, next to Los Novios restaurant, it was not very far at all. We then measured 1,000 feet from the school, and that took us to Sonic, right around the corner from the high school. We'd like to ask the Roswell City Council to increase the distance required from school to dispensary to 1,000 feet. The proposed C2 zones cover a large geographic area from the map, and it appears that I live in the C2 CAN zone. I am concerned that this may affect my neighborhood. In addition, we ask that there be a limit to how many dispensaries are granted a license. We already have 5 here in Roswell, and we believe that the negative impact of establishing additional locations will be greater than the benefit to our community. Thank you so much for doing your best to support the youth in Roswell, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Okay, thank you. This time I'll ask Kim Rutley to join the group. Ma'am, come forward, state your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Vanessa Alvarez, and I live at 10 Bailey Place. I am a member of the Young Adult Council. Mr. Mayors and members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight and for your efforts to protect the most vulnerable members of our community. Your critics will tell you that measures you are taking to create a safer community for your youth are unreasonable, but I want to assure you that there are other things that are much more unreasonable. These are the facts. Marijuana is addictive. The CDC states that 1 in 6 who begin using before the age of 18 will become addicted. In Chaves County, there are approximately 524 people with cannabis use disorder. 79% of them are likely not receiving treatment. Secondhand marijuana smoke contains many of the same toxins and carcinogens found in directly inhaled marijuana smoke in similar amounts, if not more. Marijuana users are significantly more likely than non-users to develop temporary psychosis and long-lasting mental disorders, including schizophrenia. A Chapel Hill study reported that cannabis advertising is linked to problematic use in teens. Youth between the ages of 15 and 19 who reported seeing billboard or storefront ads had 7 times the odds of reporting frequent cannabis use and nearly 6 times the odds of having symptoms associated with cannabis use disorder, CUD, as compared to those who reported never seeing physical advertisements. The Young Adult Council is concerned about the impact cannabis use is already having on our community and wants to mitigate the negative impact of legalization by providing clear communication to the public through signage at parks and other gathering places where use is prohibited, and as well as preventing exposure to cannabis secondhand smoke in public places including bars and clubs. Thank you for all your efforts to protect the health and welfare of our youth. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I'll ask for Jennifer Therian to join the line. Ma'am, go ahead, come forward, state your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Jasmine Contreras, 2803 South Lee. Members of the council, thank you for your time and opportunity. Thank you as well, Mayor. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight and for your efforts to protect the community. And I also like to give you a few facts. The 2019 The Youth Risk and Resiliency Survey reported that marijuana was the most commonly used illicit drug in New Mexico by youth. Marijuana intoxication is associated with impaired driving and fatal crashes. In 2019, among New Mexico high students who drove, almost 20% drove while they were high. With the state's legalization of recreational marijuana, I am very concerned about our efforts to curtail the use of marijuana among youth, because my family was deeply impacted by the driver who was drunk and high at the same time. With that being said, on June 13th, my guardian angel, who I like to refer as my grandmother, passed away by someone who was drunk and high. Because of that individual's decision, I never had the opportunity to meet her, nor I will never have memories of her, and neither will my future children. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask Sean Nicholson to join the line. Ma'am, come forward, state your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Kim Rutley. I live at 2006 Clover Lane. Members of the council, Mr. Mayor, I'm the prevention coordinator at La Casa Behavioral Health. As you know, marijuana use in Chaves County has been a public health concern prior to the recent legalization. We have been developing strategies for the last 3 years, procuring funding to try to address the issue here. So the legalization has only made it more of a concern for us, because as you increase access for youth, promotion of the product, you'll see a commensurate consequences. And as the girls mentioned, we are the highest in the country. It's very unfortunate. I want to read to you an excerpt from the Journal of the American Medical Association, because it kind of provides us a history of how we got here, partially. So the shifting legal environment for marijuana use in the United States is traceable to a 1996 California ballot initiative that approved use of marijuana use for various medical conditions. Thereafter, medicalization proliferated in other states and spawned a derivative movement to legalize non-medical use of marijuana. With legal status and social acceptability of marijuana ascendant, the marijuana industry has created products to enhance the palatability and potency and expand modes of delivery. One outcome of this shift in marijuana status is an overall increase in past year marijuana use from 25.8 million people in 2002 to 43.5 million people in 2018 among U.S. people aged 12 years and older, and a noteworthy increase in young adults. This group, the Young Adult Council, was developed for that reason. They are near peers to high school students. They are great vehicles for information to the younger students, high school students, wannabe college students. So they will be mentors and brand ambassadors for the work we're doing at La Casa. I bring all of this up because adult use is, youth use is an unfortunate consequence of adult use. When adults started vaping, youth started vaping. And the tobacco industry will tell you that. And when you look at the history of where we're at with marijuana use, it follows almost the same history of tobacco use in our country.
I'm
and
sorry,
I'll wrap
ma'am.
it up. Yeah.
3 minutes.
So, alrighty. I'll just thank you today, and
Okay.
just, I think the girls already said, had their ask. Thank you so much.
All right, ma'am, come forward, state your name and your address, please. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Jennifer Therian, and my address is 3500 Calumet Road. I have written it down, so if I go over, it'll be like 4 seconds, okay, guys? First, I would like to address the current temperament towards the legalization and how negative it is. I believe that your positions require neutral perspective based off of all of your roles within our city. I hope you will hear my words with intention and an open mind. After overview of our master plan, I believe that cannabis can help solve many of Roswell's issues. It recognizes the need for growth, investment, infrastructure, more tourism, children's education, city taxes, and redevelopment. It would be most beneficial to us if all sales and use were considered more like bars with the same operating times, not further stressing our police force. It would increase tourism in the areas of need identified and encourage investors to purchase and restore our historic buildings and the many vacant parcels along Railroad. The ICANN and CCAN designation within zones is simply unnecessary. All of C2, downtown, and Railroad would benefit from the new businesses. I also believe that that I-2 should be among the acceptable zone list, and I'll tell you why, okay? Sorry, I'm nervous. I've got anxiety, guys. I-1 may be 25% of Roswell, but it houses the city dump, the college, several schools, rehab facilities, aviation industries, and the base alone holds over 700 houses and is owned mostly by the city. And at a quarter-mile separation and exclusion of the railroad district, it seems as though the city and a very small handful will be the biggest benefactors and controllers of facilities available for growth and redistribution. The investors who come into our area will likely stay wherever they are for a really long time because of the permitting for location requirements, so 300 feet is all that's necessary. It's just unfair to many Roswellites who have invested in our main streets through real estate or who sell their goods in those areas. Grand Junction, Colorado missed out on 10 years of revenue, and just last April, their city council approved sales. They estimate $2.9 million in sales in 2022. Wheat Ridge, Colorado has half the population at 31,000 and made over $530,000 last year. I'll refer to a statistic from Lisa Dunlap. She says, let me take a breath for a second. Do y'all mind? Sorry, I'm a nervous speaker, guys.
Okay.
Okay, she says that they estimate the legal and illegal market in New Mexico will be $762.5 million, guys, next year. New Mexico will capture 25% of the legal in 2022, but that's expected to increase to 99% by 2026, which brings me full circle to y'all's open minds. We have a horrible crime rate, the worst graduation rate, and the highest unemployment rate in southeast New Mexico, and half the salary average as two of our closest counties. We have identified a need for increased drug education programs, very badly, y'all, very badly. Jobs and more extensive art legacy for Roswell. I recommend you check in with Trinidad on what they've done with their art community.
Ma'am.
Yes.
Time has run out.
I'm sorry, guys. Okay, well, I will say thank you very much, but how we approach will either benefit us and all of our needs or seal the casket on Roswell's economy.
Okay. All right, sir. Come on up, state your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name's Sean Nicholson. My address is 2708 North Washington Avenue. First, I want to say, I think if the state legislature had heard those 3 ladies' presentation, we might not even be here today talking about how we're going to try and save Roswell from legalized marijuana use. I echo what several other people said, in that I believe 300 feet is insufficient, especially around schools, that 1,000 feet should be the minimum that you consider when you look at this new ordinance. I also didn't see anything in the ordinance related to advertising as you approach Roswell from either north, south, east, or west into town. It did mention that you could have advertisement on the business itself, but I'd like to see something added to the ordinance regarding where advertising boards can be placed in town so as not to influence or dissuade people from coming into Roswell and potentially hamper our tourism, which is a very big part of our industry in Roswell. The second part of that as well is I currently work at the largest public employer in town, and we have difficulty hiring people, young adults, into our business because a lot of them fail the drug screening. I also work closely with the EDC and the college and the high schools to try and take kids from college and high school and employ them in technical fields at my current place of employment. And it's difficult to do that because, again, they can't pass the drug screening. As everyone has stated, clearly marijuana use, not here for debate because the law got passed, we can't fight that, but we need to make sure that the advertising is centered towards the people who want to use it and don't try and influence others down a road that could be perilous for them in their career and their future. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as I stated earlier, this is a public hearing. Now, we've heard from the individuals who signed up. If there's anyone here wishing to speak on this or proposed ordinance, even if you have not signed up, is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to the ordinance? In opposition? Anyone present? Let the record reflect no one chose to come forward to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in support? Anyone present wishing to speak in support of the proposed ordinance? Let the record reflect no one's choosing to speak in support. Now, before I go to the council, and I have Councilor Stubbs on my list, Mr. Mavers, do you want to address the distance requirements and what's in the state statute versus what the municipality can do? Okay. I should have warned you.
With respect to the distance requirements, Mr. Mayor and Council, the Section 12, Part A, 2B of the legislation, and I'll read it verbatim. The cannabis establishment or integrated cannabis microbusiness is located at a minimum distance from a school or daycare center as determined by local jurisdiction, but which minimum distance shall not be set at any more than 300 feet from a school or daycare center that was in existence at the time the establishment or microbusiness was licensed.
Okay. Mr. Patterson, my interpretation is that 300 is the maximum distance that we can impose?
Yes, that's how I read that as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. I got 3 counselors now, Stubbs, Perry, and Foster. Don't go too far, Mr. Mavers. I'm sure they're going to go. Counselor Stubbs, you have the floor.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. And Kevin, thank you for the good presentation. And those of you that spoke, I appreciate so much what you've said, and I agree probably very close to 100% with everything you said, but unfortunately, approaching the issues that you spoke about is not what we're here to debate tonight. The state is allowing the use of cannabis. What we're here tonight to do is try to create a situation where Roswell is in the best place it can be to accept the businesses that we are not going to be able to turn away, because again, the state says we shall have cannabis throughout the state. So I'm sorry that that conflict tends to arise, because I certainly appreciate everything that everybody has said. Saying that, Mr. Mayor, you already had us address the 300 feet. Again, just the fact that this is mostly all from state statute. And again, I need to reiterate what we need. What we can primarily concentrate is the time, the manner, and the what? Place.
Time, manner, and place.
Place. Thank you all. So forgive me. So that's what we're working on today. And as Mr. Mavers said also earlier in his presentation, this is what we felt was most important for us to get through before September 1, when the state starts accepting permit requests. So there will be more to come to this ordinance. We will try to address several of the things we're discussing, but again, what we're addressing now is what we feel needs to be in place prior to applicants going to the state. They will have the information that we're asking council to approve tonight, so that they can have the location and some of the needs that the state's going to be asking of them. And I think that another piece of all of this, again, as Mr. Mavers mentioned in his presentation, there will be a lot of land development standards that are going to be required. If you notice, they are listed in what we're proposing under section 2763, which is establishment of the ICANN zoning designation, and there are some also in the CCAN designation, but you will see under B, land use, there are many standards of the things that we're going to be requiring. So I think that what I have witnessed so far, and I hope the rest of you do too, that we're doing everything we possibly can with what the state is allowing us to do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. I have Councilor Perry, Councilor Foster, and Councilor Best. Councilor Perry, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of observations. Number one, concerning the 300 feet versus 1,000 feet and different things. We have from the very beginning with the small, I don't know if we want to call it an ad hoc committee or what, steering committee, thank you, that is being chaired by Councilor Stubbs as chair of legal, Councilor Best as chair of public safety, and myself as chair of finance. We've been working with staff and on these. As we have looked at it, that 300 foot has been set, from my understanding, by state, and there's nothing we can change about that. And now there are other government entities around the state that may be looking at other things to try, but we're reading that very black and white, that that's the way it is, and we're trying our best to protect our people, at the same time be able to be inside the parameters which we are allowed. A couple of other things, it was brought up about signage, and I agree 100% about the signage. I want just to make sure everybody understands, there's a lot of areas in here. If you go through and actually read the ordinance, there are areas that are reserved. There are sections that are reserved that there's nothing under. Taxation is reserved. Sections 27-154 through 159 are reserved. We could not eat the whole elephant at one time and have something presented here. The main thing we had to do, because September 1, they get to start filing to have these, to petition for these businesses. So signage will be, I can guarantee you, in the future, something that we will be looking at least I will be looking at, I can't speak on behalf of the council, but we had to hit immediately what was before us to take care of. So I just wanted to make that just sort of as a clarification. A couple of other things that I did want to talk about is I want our community to know that we are doing everything, at least I feel as one counselor, but I believe that this council is trying to protect our citizens to the best of our ability. No one on this council made the decision for cannabis to be made legal in the state of New Mexico, but unfortunately we are seeing the erosion more and more of local option from our legislators being taken away from our counties, from our city, from our school boards. We're seeing more and more of local option taken away. And so we've really got to look at that when we move forward. Some things that we've got to look at has been said, and I have had some folks that approached me and said that we need to allow these things in the downtown district. We need to allow these things in these areas. I'm not a fan of having these shops all over town. I think you know that. I brought forward many years ago the sexually oriented business ordinance. There's just places that is just not appropriate. I don't think a brothel is appropriate in downtown Roswell. I don't think that a gentleman's club is appropriate in the middle of downtown Roswell, and I sure don't think that marijuana shops are appropriate in downtown Roswell as well. I don't think that's going to prohibit people who are going to buy this stuff. They're going to find it. They're going to find where they're going. There was reported not long ago, just a few days ago, I had heard that it's not going to bring the kind of money people think it's going to bring to these communities. I don't think people recognize and understand how much money it's going to cost to regulate this. In Colorado a number of years ago, there was the Rocky Mountain study that was done, and in it, the increase of minors, of children, that had to be hospitalized or visit emergency rooms due to the taking in, eating, or whatever they do with a lot of this stuff, drastically increased. The ability to educate, what it's going to take to regulate, all this is going to cost an extensive amount of money right as well. And there's been studies done that the true benefactors at the end of this day on much of this is going to be the illegal dealers. It's going to be really who are going to benefit from this because it's going to be so much cheaper to be able to buy from them than as we raise taxes and raise taxes and raise taxes and raise taxes. And this is going to be so great. I just don't see it. So I hope that our community sees that through doing this is not, at least this counselor, is not saying, I'm so excited about this coming to our community. What this counselor is trying to do is saying, if it's going to have to be, according to the state legislatures, that we have to do this, then we are going to regulate to our best of our ability to protect the people who we serve. And I just want to publicly say to those three young ladies, thank you for the courage that it took for you to stand before us. I know I've got teenagers at home too, and I know how unpopular it is to be a teenager to stand against this, and I'm proud of you. When I was in junior high school, I was the president of the Student Staying Straight Club. Nancy Reagan, that tells you a lot how old I am, was a big thing against Just Say No, and I remember even back then in school how unpopular it was to be a teenager encouraging other young people to just say no. And I just want you to know you give me even more energy for us to continue in this fight and to try our best to make Roswell as safe as we possibly can. Thank you to our school board member who spoke as well. I wish we could make it 2 miles from any school. Fortunately, I think the way that we have seen this written with the C2 and with the floating zone, I don't think they'll be able to get anywhere near any of our schools potentially with the way that we've seen this written. So I hope that will help to rest assured at least some of you that we're trying our best to protect our community. With that, I yield.
Thank you. And Councilor Perry, contrary to what Councilor Best said, when I was in junior high, it was not Mrs. Lincoln. Counselor Foster, you have the floor.
Wasn't it Mrs. Washington? Oh, okay, sorry. Mayor, thank you. First off, I want to thank the ladies from Give a Fact. I mean, that was an awesome presentation, and to come before us and stand before us and do such a great job. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all the work you're doing. Secondly, I've heard it said that, I better put up my glasses, I can't read what I wrote, sorry. I've heard it said that us acting on this legitimizes the industry. Unfortunately, the state has already done that. What we've got to do is protect Roswell. The next statement that this is economic development, it's not. Economic development produces something and exports it. This all has to come from local communities, so the money that's being spent on it has to come from here, and it has to stay here because you can't export or import. So it is not economic development. So it's there will be taxes, but the money that's spent has to be money that is already here. True people can come from Texas and purchase, but then they're breaking the law by transporting it. So unfortunately, that's not up for us to make those decisions. If we don't act on this as we're doing now, it's going to happen to us anyway. It's coming. September 1st, whether we have this passed or not. So I appreciate you, Mr. Mavers, in getting the start of this, and like you said, it's just the one step. We've got some framework. We're going to be working on it, and we're going to restricting or doing some other things. Signage. Now our signage, we can only control signage within the city limits. So the statement of wishing we could keep it from on the highways, we can't control that. But we can control the signage and put ordinances for in town. So, and we will do that. But Councilor Perry mentioned that, the cost of medical is going to go up. But, the Councilor Stubbs mentioned, the cost of vet care is going to go up too, because accidental ingestion of marijuana with pets. So there's so much that we've got to look into on this, and I don't see it being a profit center for us or for the state. I see it being a cost in more than one way. So thank you, and with that I yield.
I have Councilor Best, Kennard, and Roebuck in that order. Councilor Best, you have the floor.
So, as I said, I sit on the steering committee, and I'm very honored that I was asked to be on that committee because I think it's very serious for our city, for our youngsters. And I just want to say what Councilor Perry said and what Councilor Foster said to these young girls that came out, and they researched, and they went out with their measuring tape, and they measured, and they came up with the correct answers. They didn't sit and wait for someone else to give them the answers. They took it into their own hands. Kudos to you girls. We'll work as hard as we can to make it right. Thank you.
I have Councilor Kennard and Councilor Roebuck, and I exhaust my list. Councilor Kennard, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank everyone that came out to speak on this issue. It's unfortunate that there weren't more people here, but I feel that many people just believe that we're stuck with this now. But we will try to do our best to respect, do what we can to limit the effect. I did want to piggyback on Councilor Perry's remark regarding our community. Based on the statistics that we were given, me personally, I feel like anybody is going to find whatever substance they want to use. It didn't matter if it was legal. As of June, these statistics came from probably a year or two ago, where our youth is the largest using in the country, largest group. So, I mean, this is available already, readily available to those people. that want to use it. But it is disheartening. I know that we have our DWI coordinator here, Diane Taylor, who deals with this on a daily basis, trying to educate our youth on the side effects. So I don't think this is a good thing that's happened to New Mexico. I don't think it's a good thing for our community, but I do plan to do what I can to protect those people that need protecting from this. Thank you.
I have Councilor Roebuck and Councilor Moore, and that exhausts my list, and Councilor Oropesa. That exhausts my list. Councilor Roebuck, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of comments. Number one, the intrusion, the continued intrusion and consolidation of power by the state in these matters is troubling to me. You know, what made this nation great is a separation of powers. Of course, we have the legislative, judicial, and executive separation, but we also have local, state, and federal. And if you consolidate too much power on any one of those levels, that's when you start to have problems. Separation of power is the key to the success of this nation, and this is a troubling trend. This, also did not get nearly as much notice, but everybody knows it happened, that the cities lost their right to do any sort of prohibition of alcohol sales on given days. We lost that time component that we still have with marijuana, with cannabis. The other thing I do want to do, all those people who look at this and they're kind of upset about this or sad about the directions the state is going, or the country maybe, but I want to remind everybody, there used to be brothels downtown in Roswell, New Mexico, and they're not here anymore. This is not inevitable. This does not mean this never changes. And I really, a lot of people say, well, this is going to happen anyway. Well, yes, this law has already happened, but that doesn't mean that it's here forever. And it doesn't mean it can't go away. And I really encourage those people out there, our citizens, to continue to fight for this. Please, please, please be on your legislators. That's the powers with the vote. The powers with the vote. And so, and outside of that, I just echo a lot of the other statements that my fellow councilors make. We're going to do our best we can to protect our citizens. And I do appreciate the work staff has done on this as well. I think they've done a great job. I yield.
All right. I have Councilor Moore and Councilor Oropesa. That exhausts my list. Councilor Moore, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I guess what she called, she said she was a straight and narrow kind of young lady, and so you'll find that I'm not okay with this, and neither of us are. We don't have a choice on whether we accept it. And also I was going to say what Councilor Roebuck said about the senators. It's here, and now we just have to deal with it. And so even though I'm totally against it, because I'm an educator, and that's my children are a resource, our life, our future, and so it saddens me that we have no choice but to come up with the ordinance of this this comprehensive ordinance. And I do appreciate the council and everybody we're being as restrictive as possible to limit it. And I know the young lady that spoke about how much money it's going to bring in and how much, downtown needs that and this, that, and the other. And I like somebody else said, if they want it, they'll drive, and we're going to have them driving from Texas, like they said. If you want it, they'll go find it. So if it's on the outskirts of town and they need to go get it, they'll go get it. And probably not, because they can grow 12 plants in their house, so they don't have to go far. But I'm just flabbergasted that we're having to deal with this as this ordinance at all. I was offended by the alcohol on Sunday. Okay, can we just get one day? And now we're having to fight a whole nother battle. And so if you continue to have issues and discussions, you need to talk to your legislators and your senators and go above us. If you don't think we're doing what's right, go above us if that's what you can do. There's in numbers. I'm like her. I felt like there were going to be a few more people here to discuss pros and cons, but like she said, this is only our first public hearing, correct? This is only the first one, so there'll be a few more, and there'll be a few more opportunities. But I like what the young people did with solutions and facts, not just how I feel. I can tell you how I feel but they came with facts, and you can't distribute facts. You can't argue facts. And so I appreciate the young ladies with their fact and with their, providing information. And I think I'd like to meet with, I don't miss you. I think I'd like to talk with you, Miss Nick, no, her, Mr. The one from La Casa. I think I'd like to meet with you and have some conversation with you, if you don't mind. But I just want us, I want you as our constituents to know we're doing the very best we can with what we have. And thank you, Mr. Neighbors, for jumping out in front of us. We're not waiting until the day before it's time to be doing. We're having 17 special meetings because we haven't, and so you're ahead of the ball. And that's the kind of city and community we need to be, is to be ahead of the ball and not, be proactive instead of reactive. So thank you for, and you and your community and everybody in the steering committee for getting ahead of this. But I'm not okay with this, and I probably won't vote for it, even though I know it has to happen, but because I have to take a stand on what my beliefs are. So that's all.
All right, thank you. I have Councilor Oropesa, and that exhausts my list. Councilor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to thank everybody that came up and addressed this issue with us tonight, and I don't want to go through everything that everybody said, but my concern is, and it's unfortunate that we're not able to bring an entire policy concerning this issue tonight, but I'm hoping that as we go along, that some of that text of this policy will contain some kind of program that the city can help, because we know that there will be some negative effects with this to come. And I hope that we can work with persons like Kim Rutledge and some of the other ones here in Roswell, and to try and address the issues and stay ahead of the game before they even happen with what we know will happen, the negative effects that it's going to have on some of the individuals. And like everybody said, it's unfortunate, but it's here, and we just have to deal with it. Thank you.
Okay. I have Councilor Perry, and that exhausts my list. Councilor Perry.
Just very quickly, I just wanted to mention that as I look out into the audience this evening, I do see a representative from the county who is probably here to hear, some of the things. And Mr. Jaramillo, I'm sure, has been very active with the county in trying to determine what they're going to do. We have representatives also here this evening from the Extraterritorial Zoning Authority, the Extraterritorial Zoning Commission, and the ETZA as well. And I think that it's very beneficial for us to be talking with each other. These things in the ETZ, the extraterritorial zoning area, is going to, that affects us as well. And things that happen just right outside in the county affect us as well. So I think it's very beneficial for staff just saying, and I know that you have been, and I know as we have talked, that other cities also around us have also approached you to see what's going on. I think that there's power in numbers and strength when people agree on things and move forward to try to do things that are well for our community. I just want to encourage our council to highly consider this. I don't personally believe that a vote for this is a vote for marijuana. This is a vote to try to control to the best of our ability and to keep our citizens safe. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. That exhausts my list. I have no one else wishing to speak on this matter. Therefore, I will ask for a roll call vote. A yes or aye approves proposed ordinance 21-09 as presented. A no or nay rejects proposed ordinance 2109. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Councilor Oropesa?
Yes.
Councilor Best?
Yes.
Councilor Sanchez? Councilor Moore? No. Councilor Stubbs?
Yes.
Councilor Lopez?
Yes.
Councilor Foster?
Yes.
Councilor Kennard?
Yes.
Councilor Perry?
Yes.
Councilor Robeck?
Yes.
Mayor, it passes 8-2.
All right, thank you. Before we go on to the next item, I'm going to have just to say a few words. I declined to speak during the debate because it's not my place to try and sway debate usually. The premise that this is going to be a cash cow for the state is a false premise that the governor has forced on the legislature. I say that because on June 14th, the state of California legislature appropriated $100 million to bail out their recreational marijuana industry. That's correct, $100 million to try and subsidize their supposed cash cow. So the folks in Santa Fe, the governor and her cronies, have greatly misunderstood what this will do to this state and to this community. Those are my comments and exclusively mine. Item number 6, Councilor Roebuck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we approve the award of RFP 22001, tree removal, disposal, and trimming services, and authorization for city manager to enter into negotiations, contract negotiations with Lawn and Order Lawn Services of Roswell, New Mexico.
I have a motion by Councilor Roebuck and a second by Councilor Foster to approve RFP 22-001. Mr. Mavers.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and council members. RFP 22-001 is a request that you, as an award recommendation for tree removal, disposal, and trimming services, and an authorization for the city manager to enter into contract negotiations with Lawn and Order Lawn Services of Roswell. Just a little bit of background. The RFP was issued to make available a contractor for performing tree removal, disposal, and trimming services for citywide needs for emergency and occasional non-emergency needs for the fiscal year, with the option to renew annually up to 3 years. We received 2 proposals. Unfortunately, one proposal was deemed non-responsive because it was incomplete and received after the time of the time limit. The evaluation committee completed their review and is their recommendation to award this contract to Lawn and Order Lawn Services based on the evaluation criteria. The infrastructure committee recommended approval by a vote of 4-0 to award RFP 22001, the tree removal, disposing, and trimming services at their meeting of July 26, 2021. I'm here to answer any questions.
All right. I have Councilor Oropesa. Councilor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, one of the reasons that I pulled this particular item is because I have always indicated that I'm not in favor of contracting out services that the city can provide. And so for that reason, I pulled it out because I want the people to know that I will be voting against this motion. Thank you.
All right. I have no one else on my list for this matter. I will ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the awarding of RFP 22-001 to Lawn and Order Lawn Services of Roswell, New Mexico. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
I have a vote of 9-1. Next item up, item number 7, Councilor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion to the council to approve awarding ITB 22004 janitorial supplies and authorizing the city manager to enter into contract negotiations with a pool of 4 suppliers for multi-service award. The suppliers recommended are Star Janitorial of Roswell, New Mexico, Staples of Aurora, Colorado, Spectrum Paper Company of El Paso, Texas, and LD Supply of Albuquerque, New Mexico.
All right, I have a motion by Councilor Foster and a second by Councilor Kennard. Mr. Fuentes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Mr. Moore couldn't be here tonight, so I'm presenting the item for him. As we have with other services, as we just went through the one for tree trimming, this is an RFP for janitorial supplies. And as it was stated, it is recommending 4 companies. The proposals were received on July 6th for the janitorial supplies. 6 of the bids were deemed unresponsive. Consideration of award and recommendation of ITB 22004 is being recommended. The Finance Committee did vote in support 3-0 at their meeting on August 5th. And again, as I stated, this is just to develop a pool of vendors that will supply the city with supplies for janitorial services for all of our facilities. And that's just as another avenue for us to give our departments the ability to be more efficient when they're procuring some of these items. And with that, Mr. Mayor, councilors, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. I have Councilor Oropesa. Councilor Oropesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One quick question. Do we also have a pool for janitorial services, right?
Mr. Mayor and Councilor Oropesa, that is a separate RFP that is in the process right now. This is only janitorial supplies. That RFP will be coming back to the council, and we'll be going through the committee and coming back to council.
And when those contracts are issued, do the janitorial contractors have to provide their own supplies?
Again, at this time, I don't have the RFP before me. It is for those services, but I will have to get back to you on that question, whether the contractor will supply those supplies and then in turn just charge the city for any other items, any supplies they use. I'll have to get the detail for you.
Okay, because to me it seems like if they have to supply their own supplies, then I don't see the reasoning why we need to have so many suppliers.
And Mr. Mayor and Councilor Oropesa, so again, even under our current structure, we have some departments, we still have janitors that are servicing some of our buildings. And this ITB is allowing us to be able to provide them with that material for them to maintain those buildings. The contract that you're referring to that will be coming before the council, that will be a separate contract. Now, I don't have the details of that RFP that will be coming back to the committee and to the council. When it does to the committee, I will make note to make sure that we address that question, and we can get back to you on that detail. But this specific ITB is to allow for us to procure the janitorial supplies for our own janitors who are servicing our buildings.
Okay, thank you.
I have no one else wishing to speak on this matter. At this time, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves ITB 22-004, the awarding of janitorial supplies to the 4 firms listed. A no or nay rejects the awards. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
I have a vote of 9-1. Next up is item number 8, Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that we approve the purchase of the 5-yard international dump truck at the purchase amount price of $100,213 from the off the statewide purchasing contract from Roberts Truck Center. And this was at the recommendation of the Finance Committee in the vote of 3-0.
All right, I have a motion by Councilor Perry and a second by Councilor Kennard to approve the purchase of a new 5-yard international dump truck. Mr. Glenn.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a budgeted purchase out of water maintenance. The purchase is from Roberts Truck Service of Albuquerque. I don't have anything to do with them.
Okay.
The purchase price is $100,213. This is purchased off the statewide purchasing agreement. One of the problems that we have with this purchase is the lead time is at least 10 months. It could be out 12 months because of chips and steel and all kinds of issues with that. And the Finance Committee did recommend this purchase 3-0 on their August 5th meeting.
All right. Thank you very much. Councilor Oropesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This particular dump truck is going to the water department, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is this truck, does it have the capability of having installed a snowplow if it's necessary to do so?
I believe it is an option that we could look at. You know, on the state contract list for this truck, a snowplow is listed as an option.
But the way it is right now, the snowplow equipment or the accessories to be able to put the snowplow on there doesn't come with it, right?
It is not included in this purchase, no.
But it can be later.
It could be later, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have no one else on my list. At this time, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the purchase of the 5-yard international dump truck as presented. A no or nay rejects the purchase. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 10-0. Next up is item number 9, Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since inadvertently the wrong exhibit was attached to this item in the packet, I move to approve Resolution 21-48, requiring the removal of certain rubbish, weeds, wreckage, or debris from the 80 properties listed on Exhibit A, Resolution 2149.
All right, I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs. When she touches her motion, no. And a second by Counselor Kennard to approve Resolution 21-48. You're not Mr. Mavers.
No. My name is Toby Franco. I'm the new code enforcement supervisor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is weed resolution 21-48. We had a total of 80 separate properties for cleanup, which is a lot. And this list was compiled, therefore we had no compliance. Nobody called. So I am looking to see if I can get this approved to get all these yards, vacant lots debated.
Okay.
I stand for any questions.
All right. Counselor Stubbs, I have you on my list. Did you wish to speak on this? Go ahead, ma'am. You have the floor.
I made a mistake. First one
Wait a
ever,
minute.
but, you know.
Let the record reflect.
Judy made a mistake.
Counselor Stubbs admitted she was wrong.
Yeah, maybe I made a few others that I never. Okay. Mr. Mayor, please, in my motion, I said Exhibit A, Resolution 2149, and I should have said 2148.
Okay.
My mistake, my bad.
Let the record reflect we're on 2148. Fair enough. Thank you. Counselor Oropesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'm confused with the information on the abstract. Because if I read it correctly and interpret it correctly, to me, it is contradictory on 2 points that it made. And I'm referring to the abstract on page 47 in the section of background. It states, at present, no more efficient means are available to enforce the requirements that property within the city limits be kept clean and orderly. Citation of property owners requires they be present in Roswell. Even the citations do not provide for the actual cleanup and cannot give the city the right to file a lien for the cleanup expense. And then on the following section, financial consideration, it states, adoption of the resolution will probably cause a number of people to voluntarily clean up their property. Most of the balance will be cleaned up by the city at a cost ranging from $30 to $500 for each property, and liens will be filed and later foreclosed. To me, it seems like it's saying two different opinions that are very different from one another.
Mr. Patterson, do you want to respond to that? Why don't you?
Yeah.
I did not draft this one, but I think what it's referring to is a citation into municipal court is what will not cause the actual cleanup and will not cause a lien versus this procedure. So I think it's saying this procedure of using a resolution is the most efficient one we have right now, because the alternative of citing them into municipal court, although it can result in a criminal conviction, does not actually clean up the property or result in a lien, which this does. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right. I have no one else wishing to speak on this matter. At this time, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes, resolution, we can do, Ms. Call? We need to do roll call on this one? Okay. I will ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves Resolution 21-48 with attachment A. A no or nay rejects Resolution 21-48. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, and I just realized I've made an error. Mr. Conley, you asked to sign up and speak on this. I apologize profusely, sir. Hopefully we did not offend you too badly.
Larry Conley, 2815 in Canton. Normally, I get perturbed when Counselor Oropesa takes things off, but we have discussed that. But I'm very happy to do it on this one. I've done a little research on this. When I saw 80, I'm thinking, oh my God, I remember something. It costs us a fortune. Just the mail is $5.93 times 80. There are 500 in June were filed, different types, but they go by certified mail. Now, mail used to be one of my business, so I'm going to do more research. But this whole thing, the state is involved in this. We have to follow the state ordinance. We have to look at it. And if the President of the United States can do a law, go against the law that the Supreme Court said he can't do, damn, we can do it here in Roswell too. Thank you.
No. We don't clap, Counselor. All right. Moving on. Items number 10, 11, 12, and 13 were adopted when the consent agenda was adopted. We are now on item number 14. Counselor Perry, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the recommendation of the Finance Committee and a vote of 3-0, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 21-53, authorizing the disposal of certain surplus personal property.
Yeah, we're on. Hang on. Ms. Call, do you need a moment to, all right. When we went to the, when these items were pulled from consent, there was, changes needed to have been made. All right, we are close to 8 o'clock. I'm going to, at this point, take a recess. It's 7:46. Let's return here at 7:55, 9 minutes. We're recessed for 9 minutes. Not for my sake, for the sake of you.
But let me also ask you to also make sure that other ones are professional. Well,
Anyway. She is angry. I'm not kidding. This is not good. I was rude to someone she felt. I was rude to.
but again, I mean, the fact that I did it late, but you tell me if I'm wrong, the process calls that I can even change it. I can't. And you know, and the reason that I do it one day before is to try and avoid the comments, the childish comments.
So, move on. Don't tell anybody else. That's all we know. Just, that's what I tell you.
That's what I did.
I know.
That's what I've done. No, she but she doesn't know. But I'm
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, I can't control it. All I'm asking you to give staff every opportunity to get right. Well, I was, well, all right. You have, you're an elected counselor, and you have the right to do this. What you're doing is so support that.
And I
Recognize where you're coming from, respect your role in it.
Yeah, are those brownies?
All right.
Counselors, let's resume our seats.
Try this again. Or my lucky socks.
It's 8:55. We're back in regular session. Like the record reflect, the entire council is present. And we are now on item number 14. Councilor Perry, you want to do that again? You have food in your mouth, Councilor. Just repeat this, okay? One more time.
And it just happened to be a pretzel, so it's taking forever to go down. Are you asking me to make the motion again?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start this all together first, so we have a nice clean record on this one.
All right, let me get to the page. At the recommendation of the Finance Committee and a vote of 3-0, I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 21-53, authorizing the disposal of certain surplus personal property.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilor Perry and a second by Councilor Kennard to approve Resolution 21-53. Mr. Glenn.
This is our monthly resolution for surplus property. It includes vehicles and equipment from various departments. It also has some items from the Green Estate that was a donation to the library. Exhibit A are for items under $2,500. Exhibit B are for items over $2,501. And the Finance Committee recommended approval 1-0 at their August 5th meeting. Also included along with this was kind of an explanation letter on how that spreadsheet works and where the different numbers come from. And also there is a report there from Public Surplus that goes back to when we started this program that shows how much money that we have made off this. And to date, we are at $96,318.30.
Okay.
And then
All right.
you'll start having, starting next month, you'll have a fiscal year-to-date report every month.
Okay. Councilor Pesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just need a clarification on the the public surplus sold and paid report on 65, page 65. I see there's a per item column, quantity, tax, totals, and then a total price. And I'm assuming that that total price is a sum of the per item plus a tax. Is that correct?
Correct.
But when you look at the total price, they don't add up. For instance, on the first one, you have $5 per item, one quantity of one. Tax total is 48 cents.
Oh,
And the total price is $6.48.
sorry, that total price also includes the 10% premium that is collected to pay for the auction site.
Okay, so the city doesn't keep the extra 10%?
No, that 10% is what we pay in fees for them to list our items.
Okay. And then my next question is, there's several items here that have tax totals attached to them. But the majority of the vehicles, with the exception of two, do not have or show a tax total on them.
That's correct, and those two were mistakes, and that tax was not collected. Tax on vehicles is collected by the Motor Vehicle Division when it's registered. We do not collect sales tax on vehicles.
Okay. So was there tax collected on the other ones that show zero?
On the two that show that there was tax collected, there was no tax collected. We made the correction internally. On all of the other ones, there was no tax. We do not collect tax on vehicle sales.
Okay, thank you.
All right. At this time, I have no one else wishing to speak on this matter. I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves Resolution 21-53. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 10-0.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, items number 15 and 16 were approved when the consent agenda was adopted. We are now on item number 17. Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the recommendation of the Finance Committee, and a vote of 3-0, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 21-54 to amend the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022, approved budget to now include the revenue in the amount of $5,875,750 from the American Rescue Fund, and the expenses from the American Rescue Fund in the amount of $5,875,750.
I have a motion by Councilor Perry and a second by Councilor Foster to approve Resolution 21-54. Ms. Davies, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. This is our monthly resolution to amend the budget for fiscal year '22. Proposed amendment will increase revenue and expenditures by $5,875,750. This is the first half of our American Rescue Fund money, and it's just adding it to the budget.
Okay.
I will stand for questions.
Questions, comments, councilors? Councilor Orpesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You said this is half?
This is half.
Okay, so the list that we got from Mr. Neb that was given to us that says 11,330,000. So we have only received 5,875,000.
Correct. We'll get the remaining $5,875,000 in about a year.
And those $5 million have already been expended?
No, this is just adding that to our budget.
Okay, but you already have that money designated where it's going to go?
No,
How it's going to be expended?
no.
No. Mayor, City Council, no. That list is just a draft to start the conversation with the City Council. None of that money has been allocated to anything as of today. So it'll go through action of the City Council in the near future, I would assume, to look and see exactly which projects to commit those dollars to.
Okay. And the reason that I'm asking is because at the Finance Committee, there was a discussion of clearing up arrears for individuals that have arrears in their water bill, and some of this money was going to be used for that.
Yes, sir.
So I'm assuming that that hasn't been done yet, and do we know how much arrears we're talking about?
No, I believe, Mayor, City Council, I believe the last time we had looked at that, and that was early, or toward the end of last year, we were right around the 800,000 mark.
Yes, about 800,000.
And also, there has been discussion, at least I think there has been discussion concerning the rental services for the public that the city may be able to help.
Yes, sir. These funds can go to any of that type of assistance. It's allowed within the American Rescue Act guidelines. We are currently trying to lean on the state funding, that they have funding as well for rental assistance, utility assistance. They have an application process already set up. So anybody that is need of those funds right now, we can help them through that. But there is the ability within our funds from the American Rescue Plan, you could look at those types of reimbursements in order to bring people up from their arrears.
Just so that I get it clear in my head, the individuals that are in arrears right now, they're not going to be penalized for not bringing up their accounts.
No. Mayor, City Council, no. At this point in time, again, we have not shut off anybody for non-payment for the entire year. So when we started that process back in, I believe, April of 2020, we have not shut anybody off. We do have to start bringing everybody up to date, which is why my recommendation to lean on the American Rescue Plan. Along with that, there will be no penalties assessed to the non-payment of the utility bills, because it was at our insistence that we hold off on collecting those payments until we got through the COVID response.
So is there a time frame that we're looking at that these outstanding bills are going to be taken care of?
Again, I thought we would be moving a little bit faster with the American Rescue Plan funding, but what we will be starting on is if the council chooses to put some of these funds to that ability to do the arrears, then we'll take a little bit, we'll get the process started. We are willing to do payment plans with anybody as well too, and it really depends on how much they're carrying as to how far out that is. I guess we have not discussed an actual end date where we say if it's not all taken care of by this date, then we will take further action. But I would say that I would like to have it done within this fiscal year, if at all possible, or at least have everybody set up in a payment plan to recover those fundings. I've always said within this whole process, I have to charge what our rates are, but I think we control when we collect those funds. And so the idea is to give everybody an opportunity to catch up with us without penalty, without that, due to the COVID.
But my understanding is, if I understood you correctly at the Finance Committee, that we would be, or you were going to be recommending to use a large portion of this money to clear all arrears for individuals that are in arrears. And so with that in mind, I have a hard time why they would have to come in and get their account up to date.
Mr. Mayor, Counselor, we will have to have some type of relationship with the utility customer. We cannot just pay the utility customer's bill without having some type of contractual relationship to recognize. Our utility customers have the ability to say, no, I don't want your money.
Okay.
And so we have to have this relationship with each one of our customers. And maybe that's the part that gets a little confusing, because legally we have to have that relationship. On the other end of this thing, we're happy to take care of anybody that was impacted by that. I think we've done fairly well with where we were at. We generally had about 400,000 in arrears generally, and we're at 800 now. So we've doubled our customer base that is in need of the help. And so, but the goal is that we'll establish a relationship with every one of them. We'll help take care of any of the arrears that was caused through all this process, and try to bring everybody up to date, if that's what the city council wishes to use some of this funding for.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, I have no one else on my list. At this time, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves Resolution 21-54, budget adjustment. A no or nay rejects the resolution. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 10-0. Next up is item number 18, Councilor Perry.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve your recommendation to the Commission on Aging for position 3 to Helen Wakefield.
I have a motion by Councilor Perry and a second by Councilor Kennard to approve the nomination of Helen Wakefield for the Commission on Aging. Ms. Call.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. This is the mayor's recommendation for Commission on Aging. Ms. Wakefield has been in a capacity of a partial term, and now this will put her in her first full term if this is approved tonight. And also, just to take note, we still are looking for one individual. We have an individual whose term expired 3/31 of 20, and due to our ordinance, she's still serving until we can find someone to replace her, as long as she's willing to do so. Stand for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Call? Councilors, I will reiterate, we have a number of commission openings, and I would be more than happy to entertain any suggestions from any one of you for appropriate candidates for any of these positions. Ms. Call has the list.
Yes, they're actually posted on the website. If you'll go in and look under vacancies, you'll see every committee, every commission that has a vacancy in there. There are applications available online that they can fill out and email to me.
Okay. On that note, seeing as no further discussion, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the nomination of Ms. Wakefield. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, it passes 10-0. Next up is item number 19, Councilor Best.
I'd like to make a motion to purchase a Priority Dispatch Corporation structured emergency call, talking protocol software and related materials, and the training certification of dispatchers as emergency medical dispatchers, expense to which will be reimbursed by the state of New Mexico. Department of Finance and Administration, Local Government Division, Enhance 9/11 Act Grant Program as awarded in Grant Agreement Project Number 22-E-21 dated May 18th, 2021.
I have a motion by Councilor Best and a second by Councilor Foster to approve the purchase of Priority Dispatch Corporation structured emergency call taking protocol software, and I'll stop there. And just for clarification, are you in any way, shape, or form a relative of Councilor Best?
Absolutely not.
Councilor Pace, I think, is pleased to hear that.
Good evening,
Oh,
Mayor.
wait a second. What'd you say, Councilor Foster?
I think we all are. She's the best.
Go ahead, Ms. Best.
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here again representing the Pecos Valley Regional Communications Center, which is the official name for the Consolidated Dispatch Center and 911 Center. Is that good? For Roswell and Chavez County. A couple of months ago, I came to you and requested approval to purchase the emergency fire and emergency police portions of software for structured call taking. At that time, I told you that I anticipated and hoped for a grant award from the state of New Mexico for the medical portion. I am happy to say that that grant was awarded. It has been fully executed by the city of Roswell and the state to purchase. I have to do my slide. To purchase the medical portion. This is a 100% reimbursable grant from the state, so I am going to request your approval to pay upfront for the medical portion to be reimbursed by the state of New Mexico. Just to remind you that this is the structured call taking suite of protocols which will cover fire, law enforcement, and emergency medical services to increase our competency and confidence of our 911 call takers and give them the protocols that they need to support the community and our responders. The initial implementation pricing of $125,066 includes the software, on-site vendor implementation and support, training, certification of the entire consolidated dispatch staff as emergency medical dispatchers, first-year software maintenance and licensing. These funds were awarded to Pecos Valley Regional Communications Center by the State of New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration and are budgeted and available for fiscal year 2022. The ongoing annual software maintenance and licensing for the medical modules will total $13,500 per year. I can ask for that as a grant going forward and plan to. If not, we'll have that in operating expenses. The Public Safety Committee recommended 3-0 approval at their meeting on July 13th, 2021. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Best? I don't see any. So at this point, I will ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the purchase of the Priority Dispatch Corporation structured emergency taking protocol software and related materials. A no or nay rejects that purchase. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 10-0. Next up is item number 20, Councilor Roebuck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we approve purchase order requisitions for Brazier Asphalt Inc. of Albuquerque for Nova Chip pavement maintenance in the amounts of $458,921.34 and $352,498.55.
I have a motion by Councilor Roebuck and a second by Councilor Kennard to do two purchases of requisitions from Brazier Asphalt Incorporated. Mr. Nahar.
Mayor, Council, good evening. The picture you see before you is Brazier Asphalt is doing the Nova Chip. Just to refresh your memory, Nova Chip is what we did on Southeast Main and also what we did on Main Street from College to Country Club. What you have before you is two purchase orders, or requests for purchase order requisitions. They are two different budget line items in the road fund. One is all city funded and one is 50% funded with New Mexico DOT. So Atkinson will be all city funded. East College is 50% with the DOT. That was approved by resolution to go into agreement last month, and the agreement has been signed. Went before Infrastructure Committee and recommended 3-0, and I stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Nahar? Seeing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the two purchases as presented. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, it passes 10-0.
Thank you, council.
Next up, item number 21, Counselor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion at the recommendation of the Finance Committee in a vote of 3-0 to approve the scope of work for RFP 22-004 for the temporary employment services for the city of Roswell.
I have a motion by Counselor Perry and a second by Counselor Kennard to approve RFP 22-004, approve the scope of work, for RFP 22-004. Mr. Contreras.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I bring to you RFP 22-004, temporary employment services. This RFP is required for us to get a pool of contractors for employment services for temporary workers for the city of Roswell. Various departments throughout the city and will be using these, for seasonal workers and such. The request to approve the scope of work is coming to City Council for the convenience of timeline so that we can get this RFP posted by August 22nd, 2021 after your approval. The award recommendation will then be taken to the Legal Committee, and Finance Committee did recommend 3-0 approval on their meeting on August 5th, 2021. With that, I will stand for any questions.
All right, I have Counselor Stubbs. Counselor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This just popped out at me. It didn't mean to. Under, on page 107, the draft scope of work, number 2A, 1B, temporary employment personnel in such a will adhere, I think that's supposed to be way. Can we just change it?
Give us a moment here. Mr. Patterson, do you see?
I'm sorry, could you give me that page number again?
Page 107 of the packet. Under number 2, statement of work A, 1B. Temporary employment personnel in such a way.
Yeah, such a way, yes. Yeah, sure. I think that's right.
We
yeah.
can just change it.
So would that be just a simple correction, Mr. Patterson?
Yeah, that does not require a vote if there's unanimous consent to it.
Is there any objection to a correction of the wording? Hearing none, seeing none, we will have that as a correction done by Mr. Patterson. All right, any further discussion or debate? Counselor, you still have the floor. All right, good catch. All right, at this point, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the scope of work for RFP 22-004. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
I have 9-1 with Councilor Oropesa in the negative. Next up is item number 22, Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the recommendation of the Finance Committee in a vote of 3-0, I make a motion to approve the award the expenditure for equipping 10 police vehicles to Code 3 services.
I have a motion by Councilor Perry, who will activate his motions button here in a second, and a second by Councilor Foster to approve and award an expenditure for equipping 10 police vehicles to Code 3. Captain Smith.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is a request to outfit the 10 police vehicles that was approved to purchase at the special council meeting a few weeks ago. This is equipment that is needed to make them a police car, the lights, sirens, cages, everything that we need to outfit them. Code 3 is on a state contract. The total price was $105,000. $127.72, and that is including a $42,000, almost $43,000 discount.
Ooh. All right, thank you, sir. Councilor Perry, you have the floor.
Just wanted to recognize that the expense as written in the abstract will be covered out of the $780,500 that was budgeted in fiscal year 22.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the expenditure for equipping 10 police vehicles by Code 3. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 10-0. Next item is item number 23. Counselor Perry.
Okay, let me push the motion box so I don't get in trouble. At the recommendation of the Finance Committee, in a vote of 3-0, I make a motion that we approve the purchase of a John Deere 50G mini excavator in the amount of $68,992.59, a John Deere 310 SL backhoe in the amount of $101,105.84 each, for a total of $202,211.68. And I'm sorry, I did not say that was indeed two on that. The John Deere 544L wheeled loader, $175,522.25. I think and the Four Rivers equipment. No, I'm sorry, I've got that correct. In the amount of the $444,726.52. Sorry.
All right, I have a motion by Counselor Perry and a second by Counselor Kennard to approve the purchase of multiple earth-moving equipment. Mr. Gleb.
My sandbox is getting empty.
Yeah, this is pretty zesty looking.
Yeah. So at the request of Counselor Perry, I did go back and put in pictures.
Good.
That was at the request of Counselor Roebuck.
Roebuck.
But I do
Okay.
like pictures, thank you.
And I apologize, next time I do this, I will just include them the first time around. But we're asking to be able to purchase the John Deere 50G excavator at approximately $69,000, 2 John Deere backhoes for a total cost of $202,000, and 1 John Deere wheel loader for $175,522. This is budgeted items out of the water maintenance budget. The reason that it's so much equipment is there's some of it that was carried over from last year that we didn't purchase. So that's why we're kind of trying to play catch up here. The purchase is from Four Rivers Equipment. Total purchase price is $446,726.52. This is $20,600 under budget. The purchase is off the Cooperative Education Service contract. There is an additional package savings of $16,900 since we're buying all of this together from this company. Lead time for delivery is 120 to 160 days. Same problem with purchasing equipment and stuff. They're promising to have it to us in the spring. Finance Committee recommended 3-0 to approve this at their meeting on August 5th. I'll stand for any questions.
Counselor Best, you have the floor.
I just want to make the observation with the pictures that they are able to move snow.
Yeah, that one will do really good.
Yeah.
And that one.
Yeah.
And that one kind of.
Yeah. So we're getting our bang for our buck here.
All right, I have no other questions or comments. No one else wishing to speak on this matter. I will now ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the purchase of these heavy equipment from Four Rivers Equipment in the amount specified. A no or nay rejects the purchase. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, it passes 10-0.
Thank you.
Next up is item number 24. Counselor Perry. Counselor, you've actually got the next one as well.
Mr. Mayor, on the recommendation of the Finance Committee and a vote of 3-0, I recommend that we approve the capital expenditure in the amount of the net after insurance reimbursement of $552,410.12 required to purchase a new Caterpillar 623K scraper.
I have a motion by Counselor Perry and a second by Counselor Kennard to approve the purchase of a new Caterpillar 623K scraper. Ms. Hicks.
On April 16th, we had an accident at the landfill where our scraper came off the road and rolled 5 times going down the hill. The driver was okay, but the equipment was later deemed when it was in El Paso that it was no longer certifiable and the repairs would have exceeded the value of the equipment. So we are asking you to consider this purchase. It's a $907,000 piece of equipment, but we're expected to get $355,000 as early as next week from our insurance, and so the net is $552,410.12.
All right. Oh, go ahead. Voted.
The Finance Committee at their meeting in August also approved 3-0 for this purchase. I will stand for any questions.
All right, Councilor Perry, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, at the Finance Committee meeting, we talked about the potential of questioning the amount that was being given in accordance to the insurance. Was that looked into? I'd like just some information on that.
Yes, I did call Mr. Pratt, which was our insurance adjuster, and he said that it's not based on what market rates are going. It's based on someone's random interpretation of how much something is worth. And since they got that information from Wagner Equipment, they took that as the standard. So they were unwilling to increase the amount that they were going to give us.
So I guess my question, Mr. Nebb, and I know you were enjoying your grandchildren, rightfully so. I'm glad you and your wife got to go to Mount Airy and do that. But during that meeting, and I apologize for springing this on you right now, but we did discuss that. Is there still the potential ability of holding on, holding back receiving and making those questionings? Or are we comfortable with the amount that's being given? And I'm sorry to put you, and if you'd rather answer that later, I'd be more than glad for us to look at that later.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor, I don't mind contacting them and having that conversation any farther. I have no problem with that as well too, and we can have that conversation with them. So,
and I'm not familiar on insurance on pieces of equipment that are almost $1 million by any means, but I know when you have a problem with your roof and an insurance agent said, or your car with an accident, and they say we're going to give you so much, and there's that time of that debate of where you believe it's worth, and you have that discussion, and at times you're able to prove that the equipment was not appropriately determined. So I guess I just am concerned on us just saying yes and receiving a check and then that stopping any further conversation.
The one caution I would have with this is that our quote with Wagner as to whether or not there's a price difference if we wait too long in order to.
No, I say we buy it regardless.
Okay,
but,
yeah, but try to work those numbers. So I would say that make it as a not to exceed price for me, and then if it adjusts, then we'll just do an FYI, let you know exactly what that final payment was.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Mayor and Mr. Nebb, I don't think that we need to not take action. We go ahead and take action. We move forward with the purchase, not to exceed, like you said, but giving you some leadway and just some encouragement that maybe we can continue with those conversations. So.
Well, as a further clarification, what had happened is the insurance company had no idea what the value of the equipment was. So they went to Wagner Equipment and asked their person in charge basically how much they believed it was worth. This is the figure that he gave them. Later, our salesman, and it could possibly just be because he wanted to sell us something, located a similar unit to ours for $518,000. And so that's why there is this difference of opinion. The problem is that piece of equipment was like a 2006 model that had been refurbished in 2018. A refurbished is supposed to redate it, to give it another year model. And the insurance said, well, it doesn't really matter about that. What matters is what the original year model was. And so that's what they were basing it on. So in the future, what we're probably going to do is reconsider refurbishing the equipment since the value does not increase the way it's supposed to.
So I'm willing to move forward. I just and whatever staff decides, as y'all talk with, I'm not asking anything to come back. I'm just saying that is a consideration. I yield.
Thank you. I have Counselor Roebuck. Counselor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick, just a request, just to make sure that legal gets this, if you haven't already, give it a look over, make sure there's nothing that we can't make sure that we're getting a maximum on that insurance money, because I think it's more of a legal question than it is a,
Yeah.
anything else.
I'll say in my previous incarnation as a private attorney, I argued with many insurance companies about the value of totaled equipment, and they generally won over me. But I'm happy to look at it.
Yeah, just a quick, I think a cursory look would be good, just to make sure that there's nothing we can do on that. Thank you. I yield.
All right. Now, I have a couple questions for clarification. So this action we're taking tonight is to approve the purchase of the 623K scraper in the amount of $907,000. We're assuming we will get $350,000 and that the net will be $552,000. But we're not doing the budget adjustment tonight. We're just authorizing the purchase using funds from the solid waste. Is that an accurate, Mr. Fuentes, I think you're the person to go to on this.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and councilors, that is correct, Mayor. So right now, we were just seeking the authorization to proceed with the purchase. We will be coming back on one of our monthly budget adjustment resolutions to include that difference there.
Okay. All right, thank you. At this point, I have no one else wishing to speak on this matter. I'll ask for, Counselor Moore, you have the floor.
I had a quick question. Since the way it happened, what's to stop that from happening? That's $1 million piece of property in a matter of, that we lost in a matter of minutes. And it wasn't his fault, the gravel, but what are we going to do to assure that we're not in this predicament again in a year when the gravel or whatever, however it happened, that he was able to roll down a hill?
Mr. Mayor, Counselor, there's a variety of issues what happened during the incident where it happened. I believe Mr. Chaparro has already addressed most of them. Some of it is putting additional berming along the edge of the cell, and so just some additional training to make sure of what they're to watch for when they're out there as well too. But the big thing is that I think the one thing we did find out was there was inadequate berming along that area. So
I didn't hear that last word.
I'm sorry?
Inadequate what?
Berming.
Berming.
So a hill. Yeah. So
that's all.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? I will now ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the purchase, capital expenditure in the amount specified for the Caterpillar 623K scraper. A no or nay rejects the purchase. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 10-0. Next up is item number 25, Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion on the recommendation of the Finance Committee in a vote of 3-0 to award roof care, the roof replacement project for the Roswell Test Facility buildings in the amount of $627,131.42, utilizing the CES procurement.
I have a motion by Councilor Perry and a second by Councilor Kennard to approve the award of roof care for the roof replacement for the Roswell Test Facility buildings. Mr. Fuentes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. So the Roswell Test Facility buildings, their roofs are in immediate need of repair due to damage from recent storms and just the roof's lifespan just being surpassed. Leaks have increased with each storm, and again, the staff feels that it is imperative to fix the roofs. We have recently renegotiated a lease on one of those buildings, and we are receiving quite a bit of rent for that building. So we want to invest back into that building. The upfront cost for the project will be covered by the Capital Improvement Fund, with the lease payments to reimburse for those expenses. Consideration, again, recommending to award to Roof Care in the amount of $627,131.42, utilizing CES. Finance Committee recommended 3-0 at their meeting on August 5th. What you see on the next slide is just the visual of the properties and the roofs. As you can see there, they're different size of buildings, different material, and the price for each of those that has been quoted by Roof Care. And with that, Mr. Mayor and councilors, I will stand for any questions.
All right. I have no one on my list to speak on this matter. Therefore, I will ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the award to Roof Care for the roof replacement for the Roswell Test Facility. A no or nay rejects that award. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 10-0. At this point, I have no one on my list that signed up to speak on non-agenda items. So, therefore, I will go on to item number 26. Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I make this motion, I probably should have said this with the last one, but I just wanted to say I think it's a great thing. When we're moving forward, we're getting to that place where we're getting our facilities at that rate that they need to be. But I'm also grateful that we're not just taking that money and just blowing that money. We are reinvesting that money back into these facilities to make them what they should be. So I really appreciate the work from staff to not only get us to that market rate that we need to be at, but that we're also reinvesting that money. So kudos to staff for the great job they're doing. Mr. Mayor, at this time I make a motion we go into closed session pursuant to NMSA 1978, Statute 10-15-1H7 to discuss attorney-client privilege matters relating to pending litigation involving the New Mexico Taxation and Revenue Department.
I have a motion by Councilor Perry as soon as he hits his motion button, and a second by Councilor Moore to go into closed session to discuss pending litigation. Any discussion on this? This is a motion that requires a roll call vote. A yes or aye takes us into closed session to discuss attorney-client matters. A no or nay keeps us in open session. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Councilor Pesa.
Yes.
Councilor Best.
Yes.
Councilor Sanchez. Councilor Moore.
Yes.
Councilor Stubbs.
Yes.
Councilor Lopez.
Yes.
Councilor Foster.
Yes.
Councilor Kennard.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Robeck.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Oh, yeah, push. Okay, 10-0. I have 8:40. Let's meet in, which room are we meeting in? The far end over here at 8:45. 8:45 in 5 minutes. Councilors, all present and accounted for. We are in closed session starting in 5 minutes.
singing that song all night long. You wait and see. Absolutely, you may. There you go, take it.
Okay.
Ready?
Ready. All right, I've got 9:01, and we are back in session. Counselor Perry.
Mr. Mayor, for the record, the council is back in open session at 9:01. We had a closed session pursuant to NMSA 1978, Statute 10-15-1H7, to discuss attorney-client privilege matters relating to pending litigation involving the New Mexico Taxation and Revenue Department. No action was taken and no votes were cast.
Thank you, Counselor Perry. Let the record reflect Counselor Sanchez was not party to the closed session. All right, future agenda items. Counselors, is there anything any of you would like to see on the next regular city council? All right, I don't hear anything. If you have something you want to come forward with, please feel free to let me know, and we'll be happy to accommodate you. All right, committee reports. These are items that you feel your committee is working on that needs to be shared with the council as a whole, but is not ready for action, obviously, tonight. Finance, Counselor Perry, anything?
No, sir. We will just be working with our manager concerning the American Rescue Plan. We'll be working towards that and looking into that. And I should have said this when you brought stuff up earlier. Not that this coming to the council later, but if anyone has any questions or concerns, I am currently looking at the proposal of a resolution concerning the 3030 land grab that we're seeing that's happening. And so if anybody has any questions or anything, they feel free to contact me to speak about that.
Good deal. Public Safety, Counselor Best.
Nope.
Infrastructure, Counselor Roebuck. General Services, Counselor Foster. Legal Committee, Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, we're going to be working on cannabis for quite some time, and we'll continue, as Mr. Mavers said, to be discussing that. So if anyone has any concerns or issues, talk to us, talk specifically to Parker. And then we do have some other agreements and things that we're getting a little behind on because of cannabis, so we're going to try to catch up in the next month or so.
You know, in all candor, it is my concern that this cannabis marijuana stuff has dominated so much staff time, both legal and community development, and I'm a little concerned on that. All right, thank you. At this point, City Manager report, Mr. Nebb.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, nothing really to report on. Just thank you for your time. We got a lot of work done again tonight. Appreciate the movement that we have going on. The work won't stop, but we got through the budget and everything, so we're moving right ahead. So thank you again.
All right. I have, by my clock, 9:04 p.m. We are adjourned. That wasn't bad.